Okay, let's dive into this. It's quite a story. Imagine someone you really look up to, a public figure known for, just incredible discipline, grace.
Subtle control, almost.
Exactly. Their public life seems perfectly matched with their private one, and then, boom, a huge reveal. This person you admired, they've been living a totally secret, different life.
It pulls the rug out from under you, really.
It does. And today, that's what we're exploring. We're doing a deep dive into the story around Japan's tennis superstar, Kei Nishikori, a story that really makes you question public image itself. Our goal here is to unpack what actually happened afterwards. The hidden affair, that absolutely shocking public confession, and then the apology that just sent ripples everywhere, not just in sports.
Yeah, far beyond.
We're drawing our insights today from excerpts of a pretty key source. It's titled Kei Nishikori's Hidden Affair, A Public Confession. And it really lays out the timeline and the emotional impact of it all.
It gives us a solid foundation to work from.
So let's set the scene. Kei Nishikori. Most of you listening will know the name. Japanese tennis legend, right? Former world number 4, Olympic medalist. I mean, he was huge.
Absolutely. More than just an athlete in Japan, he was almost a national symbol.
He really was. He represented that kind of Japanese ideal of hard work, discipline, humility.
Strength.
Exactly. Fans loved him, brands completely trusted him, and his whole public life, including his family life, married to his long-term partner, he had all just looked, well, perfect.
And that image, that perfection, it's crucial here. It wasn't just incidental. It was like fundamental to his whole appeal. He stood for something.
Which is why what came next was so jarring.
Precisely.
Because under that perfect surface, something else was happening. Whispers started. You know how it goes. Quiet at first.
And they get louder.
Right, until they became actual public reports. And that's when this other name popped up, Azuki Oguchi. She's a model known in certain circles, apparently. Suddenly, she's right in the middle of this huge spotlight. And the source makes it clear this wasn't just some rumor. It confirmed a secret relationship starting back in 2022.
Wow, 2022. So this had been going on for a bit.
Yeah, and I think what the source really highlights and what made this whole thing explode was how it went from whispers to, undeniable fact. For someone like Nishikori, so private, so controlled.
Yeah, the exposure must have felt seismic, like an earthquake, as you said.
Totally. And then the real bombshell, Nishikori himself, he puts out this public statement. And he doesn't, dodge or deny.
No hedging?
No, he just admitted it, straight up. Said the relationship with Azuki had escalated, and that he'd betrayed his wife, Mai, and his kids. His words were blunt, I am sorry.
And the source points out the duration, 2 years. Think about that, 2 years of keeping up appearances.
It's staggering. Family photos, interviews, saying how much he loved and appreciated his wife.
All while this other life was happening. And that 2-year mark, which the source emphasizes, that changes everything, doesn't it? It stops being just a mistake, a moment of weakness,
Right, it becomes something else entirely.
It becomes a sustained deception. It forces everyone to completely reevaluate who they thought he was.
Yeah.
Especially given that reputation for iron discipline.
So how does that even happen? How does someone under that kind of constant global scrutiny keep a secret like that hidden for 2 whole years?
Well, the source suggests it wasn't like a sudden thing. It started small.
Okay.
Maybe innocent interactions at industry events, mutual friends, casual messages. You know how these things can sometimes start?
Yeah, slowly.
And then it escalates. Private messages become private meetings. A sort of hidden connection grows, all while he's still smiling for the cameras, doing interviews, maintaining that image.
It's such a contrast to the Nishikori we saw in the court, isn't it? The composure, the focus.
Exactly. And the source material, it doesn't frame this as a lapse in judgment, not really. It calls it a secret that lasted for years.
That phrasing is powerful. A secret that lasted for years.
It really is. It implies this deep split between the public man and the private reality. And for a lot of people, that's much harder to forgive than, say, a single mistake.
Then came the apology. You mentioned he was direct. He actually spoke to his wife, May, by name, and to his children.
Yeah, very personal.
And he didn't point fingers, didn't make excuses, just took responsibility. Said he wanted to refocus, step away from distractions, try to rebuild.
And he made a point of saying he wasn't quitting tennis.
Yeah.
Right? He wanted to get back on court, but also be a better father, a better husband.
He did, but how was that apology received? I mean, after 2 years.
Well, that's the thing. The source indicates public opinion was, and probably still is, really split. sharply divided.
Okay.
On one hand, you have people praising the honesty, saying, look, at least he owned it. That's rare these days, especially for big public figures. They often deny or spin.
True. So that honesty, even delayed, counted for something to them.
Right. But then there's the other side. A lot of people seeing it as too little, too late.
Yeah, I can see that.
For them, the source suggests the length of the betrayal, those 2 years, that's the real issue. Honesty after you're basically caught or about to be doesn't feel like bravery to them. It feels inevitable. The damage was done.
It feels like the trust was just fundamentally broken for that group.
Exactly. The betrayal cut too deep. Words can't just fix that.
And while everyone's focused on Nishikori and his apology, the source also brings up Azuki Oguchi, the other person in this. But she's been completely silent, right?
Utterly silent, according to the material. No statements, no interviews, nothing public.
Which is interesting because there are also reports mentioned in the source that they were still seen together privately, even traveling.
Yeah, that's a strange contradiction, isn't it? Her public silence versus these reports of continued private interaction, it creates this void.
And the source mentions something else too about potential unreleased evidence. Messages, photos.
Right. It hints that there might be more to this story that hasn't come out yet, which just adds another layer of uncertainty and, frankly, drama. It leaves you wondering what else might be under the surface.
So the fallout is real. Sponsors are reportedly rethinking their deals.
Which is huge, financially and for his image.
Fans are definitely questioning their loyalty, people who saw him as this icon.
Yeah, that connection is damaged. And then there's Mai, his wife. The source really paints this picture of her being the one who supported him through everything. Injuries, losses, fame.
And now she's left with this impossible decision about forgiveness. Can you even come back from something like this?
It's hard to imagine, and the source is pretty blunt about Nishikori's future. Despite him saying he wants to rebuild, it suggests his legacy. It now has a permanent crack.
A permanent crack, that's heavy.
It is. It's not just saying people are mad, it's saying the very foundation of how he'll be remembered is fractured. Especially perhaps in a culture where honor and public image are so intertwined, the fall from that pedestal of perfection is maybe even greater.
Yeah.
The source really frames it starkly at the end. It says, Nishikori played the most devastating match of his life and lost everything.
Wow.
And this time, no second serves, only consequences.
Man, it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About this gap between the polished public image and the messy private reality.
Definitely.
How much do we ever truly know about these figures we put on pedestals? And what happens when that carefully built facade, especially for someone seen as a golden boy like Nishikori, just shatters so publicly?
It raises big questions. What does accountability look like in these situations? Is forgiveness possible or even relevant when the personal betrayal becomes so deeply tangled with the professional reputation?
Yeah. What does it reveal about us, too, how we react to these things? A lot to think about there.